I know you always tell the story of you bragging about bringing me to my first comics convention and mom saying, "Why didn't you
Yeah.
bring him to a doctor's convention?" Welcome to Studio Beancan's drawing board segment. These are collections of musings, thoughts, arguments caught on tape while recording the time-lapse videos and put together just for you. Think about this as the Beancan scrap pile. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Let's do it. Okay, so right now I am waiting for Kevin McCluskey, author illustrator of the Toon book series, to join the Zoom. He is also my father. If you guys have been following this channel for a while, you will have seen him speak to me before. This time, he is helping me learn the technology so that those that I interview are not required to be in the San Francisco Bay Area or where I am. So let's see. Hey, here, 1 second. Let me close the door. All right. How you doing in there?
Well, I got it on.
Uh-oh. Echoey.
Should be okay now. I had it on my laptop and my desktop because my desktop was acting wonky. I think because the internet went down yesterday, and so I had to like totally re-up, and then I had trouble getting. Microsoft was trying to, talk to me or something, trying to upload new fixers or something. I don't know.
Oh, geez. I have no idea what any of that means, but I'm recording now.
Okay,
That's
cool.
good.
We've been recording for 5 minutes, it says.
I recorded for 4 minutes just talking to the camera.
Okay.
So if you want me to leave and you want to have your own dialogue, that's okay too.
No, that's good.
Um, so hello, Dad. Hello, Kevin McCluskey.
Hello,
Hello,
Daniel.
hello, strangers that may be watching this. My dog is in my face. Um, so those of you who have been following this channel for a while would have met Kevin already. He is the author of the Giggle and Learn series, including Caterpillars, What Will I Be When I Get to Be Me? Ants Don't Wear Pants, along with many other titles.
Yeah. The real poop on pigeons.
And We Dig Worms was his first one.
Yep.
Which I think is an interesting story because your kind of second career in children's book, like you wrote and illustrated children's books when I was very young. I remember seeing the dummies of some books that never came out and dummies of books that did come out, like Mrs. Fitz's Flamingos, which I highly endorse. And then for many years, you didn't come out with a children's book, right?
No, that was Mrs. Fitz was around 1990, and We Dig Worms was 2015, 25 years. I probably only sent 5 or 6 projects out. And you know what? Sometimes I'd only send them out to a half a dozen people. And, I'd say, oh man, they don't like it. Must not be that good. But the Mrs. Fitz's Flamingos, that got picked up on the 18th pick. It was 18 rejections. But it was very uplifting when the We Dig Worms, I sent it out and it was within 5 hours. I got an email back from Francoise Moulet, the editor and publisher at Toon Books in New York City that specializes in cartoon books for early readers for kids. And she said, yeah, let's do it.
Which, almost never happens.
Never happens.
That's a very unusual thing. But I think it speaks to the strength of that book. And that book is interesting too, because it came about because of my mom, your wife, Pat, was a storytime librarian and couldn't find a good book about earthworms.
Yeah, there were totally fiction ones where the worms were sort of representing people, like, oh, the worm doesn't have friends. Maybe you can be friends with the caterpillar. And that doesn't really happen in real worm life. So mine,
Spoiler.
I think of it as informational. It's not quite nonfiction because I say worms don't really talk, but everything my worm says is true.
Nice. Um, I think that is something that's interesting because my book, when Cloudtown was published, it was sent out to many, like, one of the perks of having an agent. So my dad doesn't have an agent, and he has had many books published. But my agent pitches my books to more people than I might personally be able to, but also, like, it gets demoralizing to hear back one at a time or not hear back. But
Mhm.
when you hear back in a spreadsheet, like, these these people say no, these people are maybe, these people had really nice things to say but aren't ready. Like that's kind of easier to digest. And my book was sold, from my understanding, a few people passed, one publisher was interested, and then a second publisher, the first editor looked at it and was like, "Not for me, maybe someone else," handed it to another editor. They're like, "Not for me, maybe someone else," handed it to another editor. And that editor, was their first day, and we're like, "Yes."
Mm.
And so if that had landed on that desk a day before, it wouldn't have happened. Or if they hired someone else, it might not have happened. So when you're trying to sell a book, you really only need one yes. Um, so yeah, and another thing I think is worth talking about is, you've been a professor for many decades also,
Yep.
retired now,
Mhm.
and you've had a lot of students, some of which have gone on to great success, and,
Mhm.
and some of which have gone on to success that we just don't know about because we don't know they're not
Right.
in publishing necessarily.
Right.
But I was also thinking about how I used to run that writers co-op, and how, like, an alarming percentage of those people went on to be professionally published.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is they were kind of already independently doing it. Um, there is a certain percentage of people that I know that can do a lot when externally motivated
Mhm.
and have difficulty with internal motivation. While the people that came to my little dingy house and were willing to live someplace like that in order to keep working on their own projects, they have very strong internal motivation. So I always kind
Yeah.
of think that that's something worth exercising. Like, that's a muscle they
Well,
can.
yeah, I used to always try to bring my students to comic book festivals. In fact, this as we're speaking is the Mocha Festival, and a couple of my students are going on their own. And they wrote to me and say,
Nice.
"Hey, am I going to see you?" And they're not going to see me this time. I'm not going, but I'm proud of them that they're going because they get a real idea of what the market is, and they're hopefully they'll sell a few zines.
Yeah. That was the first festival that you brought me to when I was in middle school. I think it was like the first year, maybe, Mocha Fest.
No, I think it wasn't the first, but yeah, it was early on.
I definitely remember it was the first time then I experienced, like, comics as literature. The Mome zine had just come out.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, these people are, like, respected and very
Hmm.
cool. Um,
Yeah.
I know you always tell the story of you bragging about bringing me to my first comics convention, and mom saying, "Why didn't you
Yeah.
bring him to a doctor's convention?"
Right.
I think about that sometimes because I didn't expect to get into comics, and also when I was working towards getting into comics, we didn't really expect you to be into comics necessarily
That's true.
because you're doing children's books and illustrations, but it's only through Toon Books that your work is more considered comics, right?
Yep, I'd say so. The idea in Toon Books is that comics are a gateway to literacy. And the one thing about comics is you don't have to keep saying he said, she said, he thought, she thought, it thought. You don't have to use gender specific pronouns because you just have the words coming right out of their mouth or the thoughts coming right out of their head. And so that's a plus for kids' books. Yeah,
That was another thought I had, is that in some ways it's been easier for me to learn about the comics industry and the publishing industry because you're a author and mom's a librarian, but it's been harder for me to learn about other things, which is why I'm not in opportunity cost. Kurt sent me a meme that was said, bring a man to the comic shop and he'll be poor for a week. teach him how to make comics, he'll be poor for the rest of his life.
That's right.
Very good.
Mm.
All right, so I've tried something different this time for this technology. I've uploaded all the videos into my like thing up here already. So
Hmm.
hopefully we won't have any glitches, but let's start with the Cloud Town page.